Okay, that seems better.
All right, good.
So let's see who else shows up. Good morning. Good afternoon, Soda.
Hello. Yeah, isn't Dino supposed to join us today?
I believe so. Alexander said he had a lecture. I don't know who else. And I think there is a proposed topic.
Yep.
Focusing on the Collaborology course activities in Dubrovnik. Ah, Ivan. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Hello.
Hey.
Ivan, are you confirmed for Dubrovnik in September?
I haven't yet started my application, to be honest, but I plan to be there.
I'm in a similar situation. And Frode, you?
Well, that's part of this call today, right? We're supposed to find out what it's about and
what it's about, how it's going to happen,
and who is appropriate to attend.
So, Frode, if Dino's not here today, is that going to answer your question?
Well, not really. Let me see if Dino's online even. No, he says away. How long did he say he would be gone?
I thought it was 2 weeks. Does that include this week?
Let's see now. He said I'm Croatia. He's back on the July 13th. Okay, so he's not back now.
Ah, so that's a week from today.
Yeah.
Have any of you been to previous Dubrovnik sessions? Do I understand it correctly that it's not the first one?
Yeah, this is probably the first one was 2008. So 2008, 10, 12, 14. That was 4. So this will be the 5th.
And how was the experience? What was going on, and like what was your experience in terms of, like, were you just speaker? Were you any kind of facilitator? Were you any of you part of any organizer team?
I've never been part of the organizing team. Frode was there last time, so Frode's been there once. I've been there twice. The overarching theme that Dino has for Croatia is knowledge federation. So I actually think it's interesting that he's spent the entire focus this year on collaborology. And Dino's approach to these things, whenever he wants to explore a domain, is to create a course for it. In my opinion, that seems a little bit premature, but that is Dino's way. So I am concerned that whoever comes would be invited thinking that they're going to attend a course, but Dino always invites people to actually co-create and attend a course. So I think that's an interesting approach that I've not seen done anywhere else. So my concern is to make sure that there's enough content, enough momentum, enough interest, enough definition, and enough structure so that it's apparent to people that there is some value here. And right now, I am concerned that people may not see it. So that's why I've been starting these calls on Wednesdays, is to really generate some discussion about this area so that by the time we get to Dubrovnik, there will be, hopefully a lot more than there exists without this activity. So that's my understanding. Oh, by the way, your question about how does it run? Typically it goes from Monday through Wednesday or Monday through Thursday. And people arrive on the weekend and leave on the weekend. So typically he has some social activities engaged as well. And I think last time what he tried was to get everyone to do what were called Pechakucha talks. I don't know if you're familiar with these talks. I don't think that was very successful. Very few people stuck to that format. Some people went on for a very, very, very long time. So the time was not actually well enforced. So it ended up being mostly people just coming and giving talks with then a conversation after the talks. And then there was some specific time set aside for group conversation. But that would be my recollection of it. Hey, welcome, Leah. We cannot see you, by the way. So anyway, we're discussing the previous Dubrovnik events. Ivan was asking, and I was responding. So Frodo, would you like to either expound on or clarify any of the...
No, not really. Not much to add. There is some internal discussion of collaborology and what it means and so on. So today I was planning to be more of an audience for that discussion. So I have to decide there is kind of a difference in the community between those who look at systems and those who look at tools. Of course, there's a huge overlap, but there is a huge difference in discussions when tool people say, hey, maybe we should try this, and systems people say, hey, no, let's not build a tool until we know what we're doing. And then tool people say to the system, well, how are you going to change the system without changing the tools? And it's been like that for a couple of years. So, you know, we need to figure out how those two sides can even collaborate, I think.
Well, let me also add, it's been about that way regarding this Knowledge Federation. And within Knowledge Federation now, there's a couple of very key themes. I think one is the systemic innovation element. And the other is this bridge building between Dino's Knowledge Federation community and the ISSS community. Okay, so I see those two as Dino's foci. Okay. Now, this is interesting because this year in 2016, he's focused this on collaborology. And as far as I know, he's devoted the entire week to it. So it suggests to me that either he feels that collaborology is part of Knowledge Federation, which I guess is fine. I think there's some discussion there. Or that it's something that is worthy of its time commitment, you know, to spend an entire week on this year. And so I think you've each seen the invitation. I don't think Dino has defined collaborology in the invitation. And that's why one of the very first things I wanted to do in these discussions, these last 3 or 4 times, is to get clear on what we all believe, and starting with myself, collaborology is. And that's why I invite that discussion, invite that, you know, set of activities around the terms and concepts page. And by the way, Ivan, I did take your suggestion. I highlighted 5 or 6 terms. I sent the link out. Alexander, I know, has been active. Leah, I believe, has been active. A few others have been. So I'm hoping that you found an opportunity to do so. And then we can actually then zoom in on what we each think we're going to get out of this week in Dubrovnik. By the way, Leah, you're on mute and you're also on video mute. So I just wanted to invite you to join us.
I am here. I'm purposely on video mute because I am outside and I just kind of woke up. So
welcome. That's true of myself as well. Okay, please join us. Okay.
I can guarantee you I don't look as good as you, though, Sam.
I will take you up on that bet, and I will Ivan and Frode help me decide, and you will be wrong.
Okay. All right, so I'm happy to join you guys here today, again this morning, and hopefully we'll come up with some more fun things to do. I think last week's call was really productive, so let's see what else we get accomplished.
Yeah, I think you probably saw the proposed conversation today was to talk about the course in Dubrovnik. I think it's going to be difficult to actually make huge progress on it given that Dino is not here, but I think it's a topic that would help those on the fence about participation then decide whether or not they want to come. And I think Frode is in that category. Ivan, you asked the question. I want to make sure that your question was answered.
Well, can you also elaborate a little bit on previously who were the participants in terms of, like you have already mentioned that there is this mixture between people who are co-creating course, those who are expecting to receive the course. So who is is there any like usual crowd we should expect there, and then we're thinking about joining or not, or is it right now totally empty space? And who is this usual crowd apart from you and Dina?
Yeah, I would say there is probably somewhere around a dozen people who are regulars at this event. Alexander Laszlo, I believe he will attend. Meilin Feng has attended ever since the beginning, and she's missed, what, one? I don't know how many she's missed. Probably only twice. Kenan Salinero came last time. She's an ex-MD who now is trying to do research in science and how science ought to improve its practices and processes. And so she's created a company called Yamana Science. Let's see. I'm going off the top of my head, okay? A fellow named Tom Morose, M-O-R-O-S-Z.
Just from the list you're saying, I'm just getting a feeling that this is mostly, it's not a course, but like a workshop where like people with huge experience in their own project come to exchange their ideas. Do I understand it correctly? Because those whom you've listed, I know Alexander, and I've been in touch with this other person, have never met, but have been in touch via email, and I kind of see their scope of activity. So they definitely will be coming to co-create at least. So, and generally, is this the like kind of people who is usual? I mean, like, so we should expect people who are having their own projects, and the aim of the meeting is to co-create, to exchange.
I would say that's true of at least half the participants. You know, I haven't even finished listing the people that I remember. For example, Dr. Yuzuru Tanaka from Japan, Sapporo. He's from Hokkaido University, very senior. He leads at least one very big project, and I believe that's the big data project in Japan. And previously, 20 or 30 years ago, he was nominated to lead the 40 Samurai. I don't know if you remember that project, but that was the Japanese fourth generation project to get $100 million in about a decade. So that led to a lot of prologue machine work, etc. And then there is Jack Park, who has been building his own version of Watson, open source Watson, for 2 or 3 years now. So anyway, there's a whole group of people that do have a lot of projects on their own that are ongoing. Then there are a set of students of Dino's from University of Oslo. And 2 of them are the twins, Sasha and Sinisha Rudan. They're quite energetic, they're quite busy, and they're quite active in their communication, shall I say. And then there are a few others. I don't know which of them will actually attend. Inga Batten, also from Dino's program in Norway. Yasmina, I forget her last name, is also a doctoral program in Oslo. And incidentally also, I believe, from Croatia. Anyway, Frode, help me out here. But anyway, I would say the students probably equally as likely as the senior people to have their own projects. And I, quote unquote, have a set of projects, but I have very meager resources, so I only make very, very slow progress on my projects. So Collaborology happens to be one of them, and so I'm actually pretty interested and curious why Dino has selected Collaborology as the topic for this year, but I am very engaged and very willing to co-create this with everyone attending. Over. So welcome to the Michigan.
I've only been to Dubrovnik once, and it is very, very co-creative, which means it can be quite a challenge to know what to do. But we should have a few of these meetings beforehand and try to get a better grip of what the intention is this year.
Yeah. My understanding is that Dino likes to think in terms of topic maps, domain maps. And so whether I send out an outline or the collaborapedia.info link or the terms and concepts or even presentations, I think I've done each of them in very different times. They all are helping create the domain map around Collaborology and incidentally also Knowledge Federation for Dino. And so I think that between now and September, certainly it should not be just a single event. There should be a whole stream of activity that's continually and continuously expanding and detailing the domain map. But there certainly appears a need to create the agenda, the syllabus, the focuses, the exercises, the workshops, the style of interaction that I think we want. And that I think is largely dependent on Dino because this is Dino's event. Although I certainly would like to see a lot of participation among us before we get to Dubrovnik. And so that's why I think these Wednesday conversations, hopefully Friday's conversation, will also be very useful leading into that event.
So do I understand you correctly that as an outcome of this, let's still call it a course, but for me it sounds more like a workshop, there is an outcome in terms of like domain map clarified? Something like this?
I think Dino would agree that that is one of the desired outcomes. Of course, whatever product or artifact we create, hopefully is not a static one. It will continue to evolve and grow. But certainly I think one of the objectives that he and I would agree is that we have a much more content-full domain map coming out of this particular week. I would also like to see a number of specific research initiatives in Collaborology. So I would like to see at least, one or two or three, if not more, specific research initiatives that I and others would like to push on the boundaries of Collaborology. Then I think there's another one, which is how do we discuss, and this is where Frodo comes in, what aspects of Collaborology could be benefited by the development of certain tools or the evolution of certain tools. I think Frodo thinks in terms of author. We've also talked about time browser. I've got various other projects that I haven't even named here yet. So I think there's a tool element that will need to come out of this as well. So there's at least those three research focuses that I would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, the tool element is just not going to happen because every time tools come into this, first of all, none of us has access to the funds to make it happen. And it always goes back to, it seems that we kind of forget the maxims that so many people have been quoted. We create the tools and the tools create us. They really do. We're sitting here using Zoom on specific systems. It's kind of it's an environment, and there isn't much call in this community to see equally how can the technological environment augment what we do. It's kind of the Harry Potter style of we have a need, so let's have magic paper with no history do that, and that can be. I don't think that's the most powerful way to go about it. Maybe we should have a thing of, let's say, Snapchat. Have an hour to talk about Snapchat. How can that possibly augment what we're doing? Because it's not only technology; it's a whole new way of doing things. Draw inspiration from these things rather than pen and paper invent them from scratch.
So I would disagree. I think that there is definitely a need to have a tool building focus and thread of activity around this. Yvonne, I think you come from, at least one of your interests is a tool building interest as well, I believe, right? You represent a community that is building something. There are others as well, like Comoros did, and Jack Park is certainly building a tool. So I don't think that the tool discussions are entirely useless. I do think that sometimes they can be frustrating, but they are still part of the mix and I think still necessary. And we've been talking a lot. Leah, what is your understanding? What is Dino told you, and how has he invited you to participate in Dubrovnik, and why would you even be interested?
Well, I'd be interested. I'm not gonna be able to swing getting there. That's part of the problem. So I told him, well, you know, I can do one trip a year, so I'm already going to ISSS. So that's it this year. But I did talk to him, and I don't know if there's been any further discussion about virtual participation. And he had said, you know, maybe we can make that possible in some of the sessions, or some of the events that are going on there. But I think that would be helpful for folks who aren't able to travel and get there, that there still would be like a virtual participation option. So that's one. The other thing that I was thinking of, and I just did a really quick search, is that I think it would be helpful, and I've said this on a few calls, to start to really map out and form home bases for all of these projects. So one of the, if Collaborology is one of the projects, is there someone who's taken out collaborology.com, which it seems that that's open as a domain, and then, kind of what you guys were just talking about with the tools changing, that there would be content in different places, but I think of it as, even if you're going to select free and open tools. So one of the tools that I use quite often is Kumu. And so you could use it for mapping and mapping ideas. It's very similar to some of the tools that you've introduced on these calls, Sam. And I don't think there's any bad or good. It's just whoever starts the project, if that's where they're working, and whatever collaboration method they choose to work in. For example, maybe it's not collaborative, like all in one space. Someone can send information to someone else who's in charge of plotting it out on whatever space they're at. So I think what you'll probably find is that whatever project people choose to work on, maybe whoever initiates that project is the person who chooses the medium. And then if you put the medium and then all of the resources on a hub, on a space like collaborology.com, then at least we have one place to look towards to see all the projects going on. And that's simply like what it could be. It could just be like homepage, here are all the projects we have going on, and then an about page. So if you want to join us, here's your call to action.
So I have two responses to that. Number one, yes, I do own, I have registered collaborology.com as well as Collaborapedia, various subjects, and Collaborologist, as well as Collective IQ and Community of Impact. Those exist. I have chosen to put what I understand Collaborology to entail at collaborapedia.info. And that's barely started. But if you go to collaborapedia.info, that is my start. Unfortunately, it is expensive for others to go to that site and join me to co-edit and co-create that thing, because that will cost about $200 per year if with the tool that I have selected, because I like it. I like the brain, unfortunately, okay? And the big drawback with the brain is it's very expensive, the network version of it. And that's why I think we really need a source to bring facilities like this, but in a much more affordable or possibly even open manner.
Right, and I think free works, but I was going to say, Sam, like you could do a crowdsourcing fundraising for something like this. Yeah. So instead of you paying for it, if I do think the brain is a really great tool, but maybe I pay in $10 a year, and then if you get 10 of us, or 20 of us, however much it'll take to raise whatever the subscription is per year.
Actually, that would really work. Even worse than that, it's $200 per person.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've always anticipated that I will get off of it, but I wanted to at least see what was possible with the brain, and much is possible. In fact, I like it a lot, and I use it for my own personal knowledge base and content. So anyway, that's one response to you. The second is, I do have a blog entry, and I believe I've sent it, and you've probably seen it already, called The 8 Artifacts of Creating a Team, or this is very, very simple suggestions for how you set up collaboration among people online. And some of the things are, agree on your terms and definitions. That's why the terms and concepts page is there. Second is have a charter, tell people why the team exists. So there's various different 8 reasons why. But one of them definitely is, what is the group memory? What is a team want to use for group memory? And unfortunately, somebody has to seed that. And so this particular choice of the brain might have been a bad choice. But anyway, that was my choice when I had tried to work in collaborology, and up until this year had gotten almost no one interested in helping me work on this with me. So anyway, that's why I did the brain on my own. Now, if there's more interest, maybe I have to rethink that selection and go with something that's more affordable for a larger team. I'm very willing to do that. I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of the history around it. Okay. And then other artifacts are things like calendars, contact lists, action item tracking systems, those kind of needs exist. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I've actually sent that link to that article around before. Yes? No?
Is it the one that's on the Knowledge Federation Journal?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 8 artifacts to seed a project team.
Yep, I have it.
Putting it in the Skype again. There. Okay. So it basically says a contacts list, a glossary, a project charter, the rules of engagement, a chronologue, action item tracking, a calendar, and external references. And if you've got that, that's a great way to kickstart a team. And that was one of my discussion topics, hopefully for the next week, was if we want to be a team. First, I wanted to figure out, is there interest, is there common interest, common understanding? Secondly, figure out how we're going to work together. And then thirdly, say, okay, so how about creating these 8 artifacts for ourselves and really treating ourselves as a team? Maybe that's a good topic for the rest of the time today as well, because I think that until a team actually has these artifacts, it's really hard to collaborate, as you know. We've kind of been de facto using Skype, de facto using Zoom, and almost nothing else. So I think, some discussion around how do we want a contacts list, how do we want a glossary, how do we want a charter, blah, blah, blah. Ask those 8 questions, get some discussion, get those created. I think that would accelerate the interaction among us greatly. So that is my proposal. Over. Everybody's video has disappeared.
Yes, my computer is running pretty slow.
I have to eat my lunch, so I don't want to distract you, but I'm still here.
Well, it's hard to say to which extent we're ready to be a team without Dino giving his vision on how it works and what's going on. On one hand, I'm interested. On the other hand, we have another event happening prior to Dubrovnik, which will take some of my significant part of my time. So it's also always a question, how much commitment are we talking about, and what exactly the team takes the responsibility for?
Yeah. So I think there was going to be some discussion either today or Friday about what we believe, we meaning the entire team here, and each of you, I think, what I would like to hear from. What do you think would be a successful outcome of the program? And how would you like to see the entire week be run? So I would like to invite that, because until there's understanding of how the week is going to go and what people expect to create out of it, then of course people like Frodo would not be able to decide, am I going to go? Okay, for me, it's a simple decision. It's collaborology. Collaborology is something I've been focused on for years. Dino says it's about collaborology. To me, it's simple. I got to go. But it's not as simple for the rest of you.
Sam, I've been looking at the sites again. I would really like, yeah, this is recorded, good. I would really like your verbal description of what collaborology actually is. Not why it is important, that's kind of clear, but what it actually is, what it involves.
Okay, so I'm going to say what I think I've been fairly consistent on as far as my understanding of collaborology. okay? It's the theory, meaning the principles, the practices, and the tools of successful, scalable collaboration. So that to me is collaborology. So it's not just the principles, it's also the practices of. And so the practices lead to more principles and tools. So there's definitely an educational component, a learning component in there. So that's my definition of collaborology.
How does what is being discussed in this group differing from how collaboration happens in business, the military, sciences, and academia currently?
Right.
So what is the difference?
So when I talk about collaborology, there's actually two main differences. Number one, that the scale reaches planetary scale. And that's what I mean by scalable, okay? And the corollary there is, if it's going to be planetary scale, then in my mind, it is unlikely and probably even undesirable that there be a single organization that's actually doing that kind of work, okay? So one of the other corollaries is we are autonomous entities. And collaborology is trying to understand how autonomous entities align and choose to collaborate. This is unlike traditional organizations where there's clear command and control, clear decision-making from the top, clear compensation structures, clear reward and punishment structures that basically keep organizations like armies, able to scale, okay? So my focus is on autonomous entities aligning, not so much on the traditional model. I understand the traditional model does scale to millions of people, no question, okay, for specific purposes. But I don't see that being effective in dealing with the 18 or so, really, really planetary scale problems. So I think that if we're really going to address planetary scale problems, we have to arise in much larger numbers with much greater impact. So that is why I choose those specific differences for my interest in collaborology. Over. By the way, I cannot prove that a single organization cannot do this. I mean, Bill Gates has proposed kind of this, planetary government style of evolution. I actually disagree with that, but I cannot prove that one is better than the other right now. But it is my understanding from, and I guess it's, from my aesthetics and mathematics and systems understanding, that an emergent, more broadly based alignment protocol or collaboration framework is much more desirable than any single organization that chooses to impose its view of the world on the rest of the planet.
How important is the scaling issue? Is it completely always something you're looking at for massive, massive scale, or is that just one good component?
It drives the consensus, but I think clearly a lot of the principles that come out of it are applicable at much smaller scales. But unless it scales, I'm more or less treating it as traditional organizational development, and it's much less interesting to me. I want to understand how it really scales to levels that are unprecedented, and that's my set of interests. Now, the fact is, of course, as we scale, we will need to share information, for example. That's Doug Engelbart's insight. So sharing information and how we do so obviously is applicable to collaboration between two people or three, but very, very small numbers as well. So obviously that's how it's applicable in other contexts. And I think to that extent, collaborology is useful to the rest of the planet. But I think the boundaries of collaborology is asking the question, how does it potentially scale to planetary impact? And that's what I'm using to drive a lot of these considerations. So,
how does it differ from mass collaboration?
You mean crowdsourcing, crowd wisdom, et cetera, et cetera?
On Wikipedia, it says a mass collaboration is a form of collective action that occurs when a large number of people work independently on a single project, often modular in its nature.
I'm not so much interested in the independent aspect. I want to be interested in a coordinated, co-created aspect, because independent basically cannot actually look systemically, really, at big problems. You can say to 8 billion people, hey, go solve the world hunger problem, right? And you get what you get today. And you can tell 8 billion people, go solve multiple sclerosis, and you get what you get today. But we do not get is the effects of knowing that, hey, you're doing that part, so I can work on this part, and oh, there's somebody over there, so let's invite them over here. That aspect of coordinated and resonant impact, I think, is missing from your definition or the one that you just regurgitated from Wikipedia.
So you're basically talking about collaborology is about seriously scalable, but also results-oriented or goal-oriented or directed, or how would you phrase that?
Impactful. Effectively impactful.
Yeah, but that could be very broad and wide.
Exactly.
That could be.
And I intend for this to be exactly that way. And for example, you'll notice in collaborology, I never define what you consider good. I never tell you to do what I consider good.
But considering what you just said in relation to mass collaboration, collective action, large numbers, single project, how does collaborology differ then when you now seem to, in my mind, the way I'm currently hearing it, backtrack?
If you're actually a practicing collaborologist looking at planetary scale problems, I believe the right view is that there's multiple systems that are all interacting and interdependent. And so I'm not sure that this single project notion correctly applies. Because the single project notion would imply that somebody's got a single charter and everybody else is aligned behind it.
Okay, what I want you to do, Sam, since I have your full attention and we have an audience, start a workflowy or something like that. And if you don't mind, because I think it'd be very, very useful, because I think you've been very clear today, if you could write at the top of the page, I am a collaborologist, and then you start writing a list of things that is the attributes of us as collaborologists. Would that be useful, everyone? Do you agree, or is that a bit off topic?
No, I think any kind of clarification would be helpful, or like documentation of the definition would be helpful.
Cool. Okay, I look forward to a link. I'm just going to wash my plate so I can join you again. I can still hear you though.
Okay, I think that's a useful one because, that is another take. That's another dimension is one aspect, and I did call this personal presentation, is how do you show up to a collaboration? How do you choose to behave and how do you choose to communicate in order that you discover and explore and then mutually agree on ways to collaborate? So this is going to touch on something that I call CCC, but it's also going to touch on personal preparation. How do you communicate? How do you explore? How do you converse? How do you remember? How do you follow up? All of those are parts of presentation to a collaboration. But then the actual interaction style itself, I believe, is accelerated by this thing called the CCC. And if I've not sent around that presentation and talked about it, I think that's worthy of another call in and of itself. CCC I call a communication and a commitment to collaborate. And it's basically the one unilateral side of an LOI or MOU, a letter of intent or a memorandum of understanding. And this is one way of saying, here's what I'm interested in, here's what I believe you are interested in, here's my set of proposals on how we could collaborate together. This is what I like to do, this is what I see you doing, this is how we can complement each other, and this is what we could be doing together. And oh, by the way, this is how I like to work, and this is how I would prefer that we start. So that, there's a 5-element, 8 if you count all the meta, structure to a CCC that basically says, if I deliver you one of these CCCs, I will give you an example of these.
Hang on, before you do that, this is because now you're going into something that you've already very clarified. On the workflow, why don't you put down at the first item that I will create and stand by CCCs and have a link to that. Because what I'm looking at here is, I like your language, you and Dino, like everyone else here, I want to be a collaborologist. If someone says, what the hell bullshit is that? I want to be able to give them a list of this is what it means, this is what I've signed up to do in general, as in, I will collaborate with people in this way, or I will listen in that way, that kind of stuff. Do you mind? Is that a good way to go about it?
That's good. In fact, thank you for that invitation. Let me add verbally one more element that I will then put into the workflow, okay? And that is that there are some practices around this thing that I'm calling the COI, okay? And also those practices, I believe, are also part of presenting yourself properly, in my opinion, to a potential collaboration. And those practices include being very clear, but also being very transparent about what you want to do, both the objective as well as the how. Okay, so it says, I want to do X, Y, Z, and here's how I intend to accomplish it. The third element is that you periodically hold a retrospective on your own execution, both with the how and towards the objective. And the guideline here is also not to be just accountable to yourself, but to be accountable to at least 2 other very well-trusted collaborators, so that they can actually call you on your bullshit if you actually have not done what you said you're going to do in the way you said you're going to do it. And by repeatedly and periodically doing this, and those of you from software will recognize this as, potentially agile, although Doug, I would say, introduced this much before the agile world did. And then those retrospectives, the lessons learned, as well as the tweaks to your how and to your objective, are also shared very explicitly and also very transparent. And if you choose to hold yourself accountable in this way to yourself and to your peers, then I would say you are now practicing at least the minimum elements that I'm hoping that will create a community of like-minded collaborators, and that's what I'm calling the COI, the community of. So that is another element. I'm going to put that in this workflowy, but I just wanted to highlight that for you because.
Stop talking, start writing.
Sorry, go ahead.
I love you. Stop talking, start writing.
I have been writing about this a lot, okay? Just in various different pieces, but you're asking me to put it together in I want to be a collaborologist topic, and I will do so, okay?
Let's do that list together now, because we have brilliant people here with various levels of involvement. I'm sure they will have further questions. So have you got a link for the beginning?
Let me give you a collaborology, actually, let me give you a impact, community of impact.
Hey.
Yes?
I like the direction the conversation is going, but I need to run.
Okay.
45 minutes. I'm still on the partially participating, but also I just want to share that it is kind of hard to find all the links. We need to come up with a kind of a way to make it easier, because for example, if I want to go and see where all these collaborology definitions are, for me right now, it's even hard to find a way. So if we can, it's also a question for any type of collaboration. What is our entrance point? Because you keep it in your head all the time, but it kind of gets out of my head, and getting back to it every time is a whole new process.
Okay. I actually,
workflow.
Let me first apologize that doesn't exist, okay? But number 2, I'm actually quite happy that you're actually asking for it, because for so long I have not found any collaborators that want to work with me on collaborology. So the fact that you're asking for this hopefully indicates to me that you do want to work with me on this topic. So it's actually a sign that I myself have not yet been making it easy for others to help in this area. So I just gave you another link to a collaborology workflowy that is a larger structure than what Frodo was asking. But within this link that I just shared with you in Skype, I'm going to put another heading. The heading is, I want to be a collaborologist, or how to be a collaborologist. And then I'm going to put those elements that we've discussed, or I've discussed, or I've nominated in this particular call. Okay, so let me do that right now. You see the link?
Right here, I'm leaving the meeting, but glad to see you.
Okay, Ivan, thanks for joining this far, and I will definitely take Frodo's suggestion seriously and put myself online as saying I will produce this, and I'm going to actually start it right now.
We're doing it together now.
Later on today, okay?
We're going to do it right now.
I'm doing it right now.
Okay, you're going to start a new workflow, okay? Because otherwise, it's too hierarchical.
Okay, right now I'm calling it How to Be a Collaborologist. Is that okay, or do you want it something else?
I've written something in Skype. The way that I would suggest, I am a collaborologist, and that means colon, I will this, I will that, I will.
Okay.
So it's like a Boy Scout kind of a declaration.
Okay, very good. Let me take a stab at that, and I'll send that around within 30 minutes as a quick draft, and also think about it more and more, and then discuss it in next week's call.
Why don't we just do it together now? Because we will have questions for you when you write things down.
All right.
Make a new list.
And that means, by the way, Leah, feel free to jump in. I mean, we seem to be monopolizing, and you are very quiet.
No, it's okay. I have Skype up here next to me, and I'm listening. So.
Okay. All right.
I think this will be important, and you know, I think that oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Who was just on the call?
Ivan.
Ivan was great, and that's what I was trying to do, that we really need like collaborology.com after the homepage for all of the links and stuff.
Are you seeing that at the end of the workflowy link that I just sent you, I started a new section? Do you see that? Scale all the way down to the end in the workflowy link. So there's now a new section being created. And you're both on mute, so I actually cannot really get feedback from you when you're on mute.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm not sure if it's good to start there, but it's fair enough. Okay, so you're going to add... why don't you add the CCC? How do you, because obviously you can also put a link into them there, right?
Yes. So I will put a link to what a CCC is in here. But anyway, I've put at least the 3 bullets that I highlighted today in here, and I'm going to put at least 4, and then some detail around each, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Give us a few, come on. You were in such good form. I want to see this now before I leave you. Sorry.
Frodo, you're creating one that, watch this. I'm just going to drag this. Did you see what I just did?
No, not here.
No.
Wait a second, it's going to update. So you had created one at the top level, and I just dragged it under my CCC's node. You see that?
Yeah, now it worked. Yeah, now it's done it.
That's how we can together collaborate on outlines.
Okay, so I would also like you to write things like, like behavior things. I will listen to other perspectives or whatever. Don't use that. Use whatever you think is correct. And just... God, you're such a Windows user.
Sorry, what did you say?
You're such a Windows user. Crap keyboard.
Keyboard. I think I would state in here, because it needs to be stated, that I'm not just a consumer. I'm a collaborator. That I actively collaborate.
So that was actually the last bullet I just added. I will look for opportunities to complement other COI members and their projects.
I don't know if that's that clear to me. Like,
Okay.
I get what you're saying.
How would you like to
I don't know if that means to me what I just said, which was, I'm not just going to watch other people doing things. I'm not just going to take part in discussion, but I'm going to actively create.
Okay, so I put your words down, and we can wordsmith later.
Sure.
Okay, I want 2 other ones on there, Sam, if you agree with me.
Okay.
One of them is engagement. I will be engaged and take ownerships of the project I'm involved with.
Okay, there is a few second lag, but I put it down as I will be engaged and take ownership of projects I choose to join.
Yeah, and then finally, from my side, I also think it's really important to find a way to add roles to this. So, I will be aware of the roles I am responsible for, and I will also be aware of other people's roles, because what is very, very often happened in these groups with all of us, I'm saying this for Leah's benefit really, you have all these geniuses in a room, Sam and Dino and everybody, and if everybody has the same job, no job gets done.
Agreed.
Of course, they can change over time.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know how you like this, but I put it down to clarify the roles within a project team so that we form effectively.
Hang on, I'm adding a word. Added the word flexible in front of roles in brackets. Or do you want changing or dynamic or?
Well, to me, bootstrapping is always a fundamental principle.
Okay, two more things. A link to a description of CCCs, please.
Yes, I'll put that in here. Okay, so let me do that. In fact, if you want it now, give me a few seconds to look for that, because it's in Drive. Hang on one second.
Please.
It is there. I am looking. Okay, here we go. Let me share that with a link. I'll get you the link. Copy. Okay, here's the link. Okay, do you see it now in the top bullet? It'll be there in a few seconds.
No, not yet.
And I'll put a few sample CCCs up there as well. Okay.
I see it now, the link.
Good.
But I would also like, in the spirit of collaboration, Sam, if you agree, is to have this as one section that is called community agreed upon, and then you have a new section below where all of us can add any that we want, and when we have discussions we can choose to put them up to the main list or not.
All right, let me put a bottom section here saying other suggestions for collaborology practices. Okay, so that will show up in a few seconds.
Yeah, I would like to have a break between that and other suggestions, or make that a separate heading maybe. Can you do that?
All right. It is now at the same level as I am a collaborologist, and that means. And I'll say, add a note here. These items were discussed in a collaborology call on July 6th. And then in the suggestions box, I put an annotation not yet discussed / reviewed / formally adopted. That's a way for us to collect the ideas and then discuss them. And I'll keep the collaborologist section here, but there's at least a half a dozen practices here already.
Okay, I want some additions here, please. I would like either a link to the 8 artifacts and COI or a description of what it means right here.
Okay, let me do that right now. And the link to the 8 artifacts are... Okay, the link to the 8 artifacts is now in there. And I'll put some examples of CCCs in here as well.
No, I don't think you should. I think this list should be very simple and clear, but on the link, you can put a link to a COI page where you can have descriptions and examples. Doesn't that sound
okay?
Clear?
All right, good. Okay, so I'm sensitive. We have about 3 minutes left, just to give you that. Let me see where COI link is. Okay, here we go. Okay, I just put the COI principles and practices link under the COI guidelines node.
Yeah, it's very nice. The way that I see this now, the COI guidelines, the link to that is indented, but the CCC one, I have to click on to see what's under it. Okay, sorry, I clicked the wrong place. It's my fault.
So anyway, I am aware this is a draft. It's a very good artifact, and I will, as hopefully you will as well, continue to think about it and provide suggestions how to improve this. It's almost top of the hour though, and so this has actually, for me, been a very productive session. And I like the way you pushed Frode to get this thing clear.
Yeah, well, a few more things before you go. A few more things.
Yep.
After the date on top, who was on the call?
Ivan?
I put our names in there. Because what I'm hoping will happen is the more sessions you have with this, you keep adding names of who has been part of this discussion.
Okay, done.
And finally, in my version, the way I'm seeing it now, I cannot see a new section below for suggestions.
You probably did not. Do you see only the I am a collaborologist section, or do you see?
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I see that. Because I think it's very valuable to have a link. You can send email to everybody in the group and saying, this is what we started doing, please add yours. Because if it's part of this massive document, it may be hard to find.
Okay, I can send links specifically to these 2 nodes, so that's a good suggestion. Let me write that down.
I just moved it.
Okay, good. So since there is a suggestion box, Frode, Leah, I really implore you, put some suggestions there. And either put your initials or some way we know from whom they came, and then that will seed some discussion around this either in email or in next week's call.
This is on Workflowy?
Yes. You have the link.
Yeah, no, I'm on there, but I don't see a suggestion box. It could be because I'm on mobile.
It's just, it's not a box per se, it's just another node.
Okay. Oh, you just.
As I am a collaborologist, and that means the next node at that level is other suggestions for collaborologist practices.
Yep, yeah, I see that one. I was looking for a box.
Workflowy is very simple. The only thing you see on Workflowy is an outline.
Okay.
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 That simplicity, it's very easy.
So Sam, when am I going to get your sentence for future text? Do you still want to present?
Yeah, thanks for your reminder. I thought I gave you like 2 lines, but yeah, you want something more specific. So I'm going to create a sentence around connecting text, okay? I will do that.
Yeah, because have a look here. I'm putting it in Skype. There you can see what everybody, oh yeah, Carl's isn't there, but he did actually write one.
Okay. All right.
Okay, talk to you later, everybody.
All right.
Leah, did this call do enough for you to still keep your interest in Collaborology alive? Because I know that we kind of went all over the place. And
it's okay. I appreciate just, kind of catching up every week, and especially while I can during the summer. And yeah, so that's good. And I would still ask the question, with the session that's going to happen in Dubrovnik, is there going to be a virtual option or not? So that's just something to talk about with Dino, I guess.
Yeah, my understanding is that the IUC, we tried using the internet there. I don't believe that we were very successful doing that last time, but hopefully.
He may have said that. That may have been, when I asked him a while ago, his response. So, okay, that's not a problem.
I mean, a large, obviously, huge value is actually the hallway conversation and the break conversation. And even, just idle chat as we walk to and from various different sightseeing events and dinners and meals together. So unfortunately, you'll be missing those if we don't.
Right.
But during the formal presentations, we can certainly try. And I know that we have tried. I just don't remember it being very successful.
Okay. Well, something to talk about for the future, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
It is still my hope. I haven't guaranteed myself yet, but it is my hope to actually meet you in ISSS in Boulder.
You got it. I'm going to be there, so I'll see you there.
Okay, Frode, enough for this call? Or, okay.
Bye, guys. See you
Thanks.
later.
See you later.
Bye for now.
Bye.